The theme for this talk is how will you approach life? Mindfulness in uncertain times. And given that all times are uncertain, but these are more uncertain, that's what I'm talking about. So this period in our human history, there's been a lot of analysis about it, and by lots of commentators, and I'm only going to obviously pick the analysis of the commentators that I'm interested in. Of great change, well, that's correct. Of creativity, a gateway for human growth, well, that's for sure if we use it in that way. A portal, a time for reimagining our concepts of meaning, a time to explore our emerging awareness, a time to rebalance, to explore what is really important. Well, that last one was the life teaching of the Buddha. 80 years of exploring what was really important, walking up and down the dusty roads of India, giving everything to everybody. So prior to the drought, fires, and the pandemic, so we had drought so I'm talking particularly where I live. We had drought, fires, and then we had a flood where I was, and then the pandemic. So a lot of things. So the ordinariness of the daily around allowed us to have some illusion of certainty, and we love certainty. And so that illusion of certainty was within the ordinary realms of the unexpected. It was sort of ordinary uncertainty, if we could put it that way. But this ordinariness has been totally overturned, throwing us headlong into the realization of uncertainty. And what comes with that is sometimes feelings of bewilderment, fear, grief, all sorts of, that's just some of the feelings, but whatever you're feeling is included in that list. And when there is such a magnified level of uncertainty, we tend to cling even more to certainty. That's just the nature of the human mind. So clinging onto certainty means we have to create a prediction story, right? So that list I gave at the beginning is people's prediction stories, emergence, creativity. People always trying to predict. And so those prediction stories may be of our hopes, our visions, our plans, our dreams, our aspirations, and the aspirations of our young people, the young people in our lives. But it seems like it's very difficult to predict anymore. And when there is nothing we can depend on except change, how do we live without being driven by fear of loss of what we have until now referred to as normal? We've got the loss of what we have always referred to as normal. So something that there's a dog walked in. I'm in a strange place, so things are happening around me. Sometimes something that we can do that is in our control in relation to personal dreams and aspirations may lie in developing a vision for how you will be approaching life as it is unfolding now, rather than imagining specific attributes of a lifestyle, a specific view of the future, or the activity of creating narratives of prediction. I'm sorry for the noise. Can you hear that noise? No? Okay, good. If you choose to develop a vision of how you will be approaching life as it is offering itself to us now, you'll be creating an awareness of what will emerge as wise action for yourself now. And the teachings of the Buddha Dharma has offered this for centuries. The teachings, they're like a compass. They provide only an orientation, but not a map. And the work of living and practice, our work of living and practice is creating that map for yourself using the compass of those wise teachings of the Buddha Dharma. So how we will follow those teachings will be different for each one of us, and also be different depending on the era in which we live. So I'm talking about this particular time. Making the teachings your own through your own unique insight is what moves them from book-learned theory to a lived practice that is a gift to all beings. And all beings certainly need a gift at the moment. So this is why the Buddha said to his dear friend Ananda, that Ananda was asking questions about what was more important, the Buddha, the Dharma, or the Sangha. And the Buddha said that the Sangha is all of the practice, because that is where our commitment to the Dharma is expressed in behavior. And that behavior encompasses wise speech, wise action, and wise livelihood. So the Buddha asks us to explore suffering and the causes of suffering in relationship to the characteristics of existence. And those characteristics are suffering, impermanence, and not self. He does not present the teachings as something to believe in, but something to explore for yourself. There is enormous respect for the human capacity for wisdom here. And there's enormous, beautiful trust in each one of our capacities to do this. So continuous change is the second characteristic of existence, is what I'm focusing on now. And that's what we're facing now. That change seems to be accelerating in a very noticeable way. And we know that suffering arises from clinging onto things that will end. We have all been practicing long enough to know that suffering arises from clinging to things that will end. So in the face of the continuous change, the Buddha emphasized the importance of developing steadiness of mind and compassion. And this is more than ever needed as an antidote to the challenges facing the world. So a powerful self-inquiry question as to how you will approach life as it is now is to ask yourself, what is the most precious thing in my life? And ask yourself as a reflection, as an investigation. Investigation is the second factor of awakening, a very important practice of the Dharma. What is the most precious thing in my life? And as you listen in this moment, there are possibly a number of things running through your mind. But can you reflect on whether those things are subject to changes? Do we want to make things that are subject to change the most precious things in our life? What is the danger there? And if we've been studying the Dharma, we know the answer to that question. The answer is unease, stress, and suffering. So the most precious thing in all of our lives is this very moment. What is happening right now? The practice of mindfulness, of meeting the moment with a mind free of conceptuality. This very moment is a place of deep rest, of deep connection, both inner and outer, a place of intimacy and joy, an unfragmented attention that does not allow the mind to be populated with what, and this is going to surprise you, not to be populated with what singer-songwriter Maggie Wheeler calls future tripping. Isn't that a wonderful contemporary description, future tripping? Maggie Wheeler has written a song called Focus on the Now. And I learned this song in our veggie garden. I live on as we talked about earlier, we grow a lot of vegetables together. And I asked that one of the women on the community is a musician to come to to teach us in the veggie garden songs. So we have a veggie garden singing group, and that we started it in the first lockdown. So we did the 1.5, we stood in a circle, and Julie taught us the song. So this is what Maggie Wheeler says. It's a long song, so I'll only read a couple of verses from it. She says, come on, let's focus on the now, focus on the now. The moment is the medicine. Let's focus on the now. And that, you know, it's I don't think she knows much about the Dharma that the Buddha called the you know, his teachings a medicine. The Four Noble Truths with a medicine. When you don't know when you don't know how, just stop and look around, 1, 2, 3, 4, and focus on the now. So we've been singing we're gradually learning all the verses of that song. And as we were, so what that tells us, that it's interesting that the Dharma has reached a broader audience with songs such as this, because Julie, who teaches it, she's not a Dharma practitioner. However, somehow the Dharma has seeped into the mainstream. And Julie specifically realizes the preciousness of focusing on the now after a series of events in her life that brought her to a place of deep reflection about her approach to life. And first of all, her car caught fire, and she was very lucky to get all the children out of the car and all her musical instruments out of the car before it actually exploded, and get far enough away from the car before it actually exploded on the road. And the second thing that happened was during the fires up north, where I am, they came in 1.5, they came 4.5 kilometers of the farm, and the whole valley where I live had to be evacuated, and so also the farm was evacuated. And then the other thing that happened to her is that she now has to move from the farm just temporarily to be closer to a university. So there's been a lot of disturbances in her life, and she's lived on the farm for 15 years. So it feels like a big pull away from something that she loves. So she actually said she comes back again and again to the words of these songs when her mind wants to think ahead or think about things or plan or dream. And it's such a joy to sing the song in the garden. And there's a kookaburra who's sitting up on he's a very waiting for the earth to be turned over and for worms to be exposed. But he's also listening, I think, to our song. It looks like that. I'd like to think that. So no one can tell us how to think or interpret what is happening. But if we keep leaning into the moment, keep ourselves steady in the moment, then the wisdom on how to approach your life will emerge from this deeper intimacy with yourself. And it's very important to trust that, to absolutely trust the emergence of your own wisdom in the context in which you are living. And it's a sacred opportunity that we actually have for growth and transformation, because growth and transformation usually don't happen when things are going well. Is that right? That when things are going well, and the minute something goes wrong, we're down in the Dharma section of the bookshop looking for a book on the Dharma. And that's when we focus, when things are difficult. So we can appreciate the gift of this moment that is turning us towards what is actually important in life. And it is becoming more and more obvious that trying to get answers out of sight of ourselves is not going to bring wisdom, because the answers are simply not there. And the Buddha, I love the story, he went against the stream. He put his bowl on the stream, and the myth is the bowl floated upstream. It's a beautiful story of going against the mainstream, which wasn't helping. And he told us to look in the direction that helps. That is the most powerful thing, I think, is that teaching. Look, we tend to look when things are going wrong out. We look out. Because when we look out, we don't have to feel what's happening. We don't have to feel the first three foundations of mindfulness: body, feelings, and mind states. That's why we look out, because it takes us away from the discomfort that we are feeling. But if we can hang out a bit with that discomfort, we can learn a huge amount about what it is telling us about how to approach life. And so that direction of looking towards ourselves is mindfulness of body. And it's absolutely counterintuitive. And it's a very simple instruction, but rather difficult to do. So awakening is a shift from an isolated ego self to realizing the interpenetration of all things, the non-separability of the totality. Present moment awareness through the practice of mindfulness of body, feeling, and mind states is the practice that supports this realization. The connection, the interpenetration in the body. And if we notice that we are fabricating a narrative about the past or the future, or if we notice there is a feeling of aversion or desire, or if we notice there's a mind state of distraction, awareness is revealing that. The practice is to recognize what is arising without making it wrong or bad, or something to get rid of, or something to judge or reject. And if judgment and rejection arises, then this is what is happening in the now. That is a mind state. That is one of the 5 hindrances. And hindrances in the sense that is you get caught up in the hindrance and the clarity is lost. So just notice it. Notice the qualities. Don't fabricate a narrative about how you should be, as you will fracture presence of mind. And in common parlance, we talk about being in the present or in the now. So that's how we normally speak. It's not making it wrong or bad, but what we just want to notice is that presence of mind is not a location, a space, or a place. It is peace. It is peace of mind beyond where and when and how. So another verse of the song which speaks to this. When I hear the news, when I think ahead, when I try to make a plan, it fills my heart with dread. That's when I focus on the now, focus on the now. The moment is the medicine. Let's focus on the now. Such a beautiful contemporary expression of the Dharma. So, may you find equanimity and peace of mind. May you live with ease and well-being. And may you have happiness of heart and mind. And I'd like just to finish this with some of you might have come across this, the first free women poems of the early Buddhist nuns. Has anyone, it's collected by Matty Weingast from the ancient Therigatha. So these poems have been around a long time, but they've been made available in a book. And so these poems are from women from an ancient, oppressive, patriarchal culture that we also had a very oppressive caste system. So a lot of these women, they came from wealthy families, they came from poor families, they were prostitutes, they were they were servants in households, all sorts of women who left their situation who worked out that they needed to approach life in a different way, and they managed to escape their situation. And this is one of, and their wisdom is beautiful. So I really recommend this book. It's very uplifting. So this is the 6th century BCE. Okay, so Patachara's 30 nuns. Farmers take grain from the earth and branches from trees. They crack open one with the other and take what's left to feed their families. You are all like unripe grain. Take time to grow. Then leave the ground behind and let your husks be stripped away. I promise, less is more. So Patachara told us. So we sat on the ground like unripe grain. We gave ourselves to the path, and the path broke us apart. What we feared most is now seen for what it is: true peace, freedom. All that broke apart was the darkness we had so long been calling our whole world. Thank you, Patachara. So let's have a moment's silence, and then we'll open it for questions.
Carol, we have a question from Sue in the chat room. Sue, if you don't mind, I'll read it out. What are the roots of the insight tradition that you practice? For example, are they Theravadan, Plum Village?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, so yes. I practice in the Theravadan tradition. And I have sat with a number of different teachers in the Theravadan tradition. So I've also sat with Sayadaw U Pandita in the Burmese tradition, and many of the teachers, you know, who started IMS, Insight Meditation Society, they sat with that Theravadan Southeast Asian tradition, and also with the Burmese tradition. So I also sat with, for a long time, with Christopher Titmuss, and he started Gaia House in England. And so yes, it's from that that lay teacher who had studied with those wonderful teachers, also like Ajahn Chah and other insight teachers from the Theravadan tradition in Southeast Asia.
And just following on from that, Jack has come in. You mentioned Christopher Titmuss, but who have been your other main teachers and influences?
Oh, well, people like Joseph Goldstein, Sharon Salzberg, Stephen and Martine Batchelor, although, you know, they studied in the not the Theravadan tradition, the other one. I just forgot the word for it, but Zen tradition, Korean Zen tradition. But yes, teachers such as that. And Sayadaw U Pandita, obviously, he had a very strong influence on me. And Sayadaw, names are just dropping off at the moment, but other teachers in Burma I studied with as well.
And another one from Jack. At what age would you say you were when you discovered the Dharma?
I went to, when we bought the land to have the community, we didn't have the money to pay for it. So I went to teach at the international school in Vientiane in Laos. So I was really surrounded by the Buddhist tradition. And it was then that I started to look into it. And at the time, isn't it terrible? I'm just having, Chenrezig Institute was being started at that time. When we came back from Laos, we went to a big camping situation where, tell me the names of those two teachers. I just can't think of them, of Chenrezig, the Tibetan teachers. Someone, you...
Anyway, Lama
Zopa and Lama, sorry, I'm just having blocks with names. Lama Zopa and Lama Yeshe taught, we were in a big camp for a month in a tent. And the thing about Lama Yeshe was he sat up on a hill and his laughter was ringing across the valley. And I just said, I want that. I want. So I didn't end up in the Tibetan tradition because I was more interested in the Vipassana because of the very strong focus on the 4 foundations of mindfulness and the understanding of how the mind works. Because, I mean, more people know more about how their devices work than they know about how their own minds work. Isn't that right? And yeah, it is. We know more about how your computer works and your iPhone works and all the rest of it. And so it was a very clear understanding of the nature of how the mind works. And I was just very fascinated by the capacity for differentiation of inner experience. Because when you cannot differentiate inner experience, it just feels like one big solid blob of misery. But when you can differentiate it into thoughts, feelings, sensations, mind states, emotions, and the particular Dharma maps, all the teaching, the specific teachings of the 4th foundation of mindfulness, you've got an incredible direction to follow. And I really love that. And because what it showed me is that all our minds are the same. It's just that what goes on in them is conditioned by our different experiences. And therefore you get that wonderful understanding of not self, that everything is conditioned. It is not self. It's not permanent. And obviously it's not going to be permanent because nothing's permanent. So it was just a very revelatory experience to really understand that, and and have good teachers on that. And really great gratitude to the teachers who revealed that wisdom to me.
Thank you. What a range of teachers there. Incredible.
Yes, that's right.
A question now from, I think it's Silla. I'm sorry, Silla, if it's Chilla, but do you think as Buddhists we should get involved in movements like Black Lives Matter when we're able to mingle again with others in public? Now, I know you have call yourself a social activist. So
yes. All right. So this is what really my talk is about, that however you bring your compassion and loving kindness into the world is what feels right for you. So if you are drawn to support that movement, then that is the right thing for you to do, because your joy and love and attention and determination and support will go into that. At the moment, I didn't think I'd have to be in another campaign, but they're going to build a huge dam right above where I live, and I'm now supporting that. So I thought after stopping the gas fields in the northern rivers, I thought that was it, but no, it's not it. We're doing the dam. That's what I'm drawn to support at the moment. That's right. It's a very disrespectful use of water to dam up and flood beautiful rainforest areas, indigenous precious indigenous sites, and it's not a good use of taxpayers' funds and so on. So without getting into all that hydrology business, that's what that feels right for me to be supporting the young people that are in that campaign now. So you do what feels right, you know, from a deep reflection from yourself, do what feels right for you.
And Carol, I had a question. How does your Buddhist practice inform your activism?
So, well, one of the things that really burns activists out is being attached to an outcome. It burns us all out, doesn't it? That's what the practice is about. We're all being burned out by attached to outcomes. So if you can, whatever you do, whether it's activism or anything in your life, you're just doing it from very present moment awareness and from a loving heart and a compassionate heart, then that's what the practice brings to my activism. Yeah.
And a question from Sue. Sue, I might have got, is your intentional community Buddhist? Is that right? I'll unmute you.
Well, there's a lot of Buddhists. We've got a small retreat center in the forest called the Forest Meditation Center, which is, you know, like 0-star accommodation. It's one step up from camping, but it's so beautiful in the forest. And we've got a small meditation hall near the community house, but it's not even though it's called Dharmananda, it's not a Buddhist community. We run a farm. You can't have a Buddhist farm. Like, it just doesn't fit. And a lot of the young people are not, you know, practicing Buddhism, but they're beautiful. Their life, whatever their philosophy is a very good philosophy.
So Carol, you'd have a mix of traditions and even atheists?
Oh, totally. Yes. Yeah. Oh, people. Yeah.
If anyone else has another question, just pop it in the chat room. And Carol, I just want to look. I love that image of the Veggie Garden Choir.
Yes.
But I just wanted to ask, just very generally, getting through COVID. I'm in Melbourne. You know, lockdown 4. There is a lot of fear, and to some extent that is exacerbated by the media. Just the only news there is COVID. You know, I know you're saying the mind is where it's at, but just some general advice about getting through this time.
Well, I think that don't listen to the media. Like, I haven't listened to the radio. I just don't turn on the radio or the TV. And I read a bit of The Guardian online, and you can just read the headlines and see. That's enough. You know everything. Like, it stays the same. It's been the same for months, 5 months. There hasn't been much change. And so just keep your mind clear of the media. I think that is a massive big start. And if you can, I know you're not allowed 5 kilometers, but if you can get into a park where there's trees, big trees, get under the big trees. The trees give off something like, you know, the equivalent of pheromones, which make you feel good. You know, in Scotland, they're now giving people prescriptions for nature deficit disorder. So get near a big tree and do the practice that I just touched on in the is we are totally supported by that tree, that as it breathes out oxygen and it takes in our we are breathing together. Sit by a tree and breathe with it. It is a beautiful, beautiful practice of connection in nature. It is very healing. It is a very beautiful thing. And even if, you know, you can pick some flowers or get yourself some flowers and really let beauty, surround yourself as much as you can by beauty, and connect, make time to connect, even if it can be only on the phone with people. Really check in, have some people that you check in with regularly. And just recently I set up as a woman who lives on her own on a ridge over near the coast, and she wrote an email to me about her isolation. And I mean, it's escalated by COVID, but she's very isolated. And she said she needs to talk to several people a week. So you see what your need is. And this was very empowered of her to say this. I need several people a week to talk to for just 10 minutes. And I said I'd be one, and I'd also set up. So I contacted all people, 4 other people that I know she knows, and asked them if they would do that too. So we can support, because she's very shy and retiring. And she said, I don't want, to have to, I feel too embarrassed about this. So I set that up for her. So we can support each other in these small ways. That one of the things that is very healing is to, if you haven't got too many burdens already, is to help somebody else. If you can. If you've already got a lot of helping burdens, don't add another one. But if you can help someone, is a very healing thing. So yeah, there's a few things. And just bring your practice off your cushion into your life. Don't just have your practice on your cushion, bring it into your life. Or listening to something that's very uplifting. If you love music, listening to beautiful music, or having a hot bath, doing some nice things for yourself like that, pampering, looking after, loving yourself, because loving yourself first, and then out of that loving yourself first, your heart opens, and then you can expand that love to a lot more people.
Carol, thank you. I don't think there's any other questions.
Okay.
I just like to say, if you'd like to thank Carol in the traditional way with some dana, we're putting her bank details on the screen at the moment. Also, if you're not a member of Sakyadhita Australia, we encourage you to join us, an organisation that aims to support Buddhist women and nuns of all tradition. And we currently have a membership special. $40 will take you to the end of 2021. And you can do that at our website, which is simply sakyadhitaoz.org. I'd also like to tell you about what's coming up for Sakyadhita Australia. We have organised a meditation group each month, beginning September on the 13th. Our first teacher will be our Vice President, Venerable Chikwan Sunim, who will be teaching us in the Sion Korean tradition. In October, we'll be joined by Aya Jetindraya, the spiritual director at Santi Monastery, who teaches in the Theravadan tradition. And November, we'll be joined by Venerable Thupten Choki from Chen Rezig Institute, who is the director of the Liberation Prison Project and teaches in the Tibetan tradition. So in these times of COVID and all these problems we've been talking about, we just feel it's good for us to get together every month. So that's about it from me. The bank details are on the screen, and I'd just like to thank you very much, Carol, for your time. It's been terrific, a very inspiring talk. And remind people that it will be available if they'd like to listen again on our website or on Facebook. And Carol's bank details are up on the screen now.
Thank you. And I deeply appreciate the invitation to talk and to meet some of you on the screen, so to speak. And thank you for the wonderful work you do for women in the Buddhist tradition in the world. I greatly appreciate that. Yeah, thank you very much.
And thank you everyone for joining us, and see you again hopefully on September the 13th with Venerable Chikwan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.